Okay, trying this again. Let's see how this works. Okay. I think this might be working. I did a video a few weeks ago. It was a good video, and then the sound didn't work. It wasn't very fun. So I'm having to have a little bit of faith and trust here that recording this, streaming through my iPhone, and I'm looking at my computer, and there's a delay, and obviously I can't have the sign on here. So it says excellent connection, and not many people have been watching these live, which is fine. But my name is Gavin Weber. And, I was thinking about that this morning. This is called Dissolving the Illusion. And I've noticed that it's weird to say my name now because there becomes all these pictures and past stories and thoughts that are associated with the name Gavin Weber. And what's interesting and weird is that I feel like I'm becoming less associated with that name, which is a little, admittedly, concerning. Feels unusual. I wouldn't say it brings me comfort. It's like, wait, what's going on with that? Like, somebody calls your name and you turn around like, oh yeah, they're talking to me. I know who I am, right? And in California right now, there's a governor called Gavin Newsom. Well, there's not many Gavins my age, but as soon as I say Gavin, like Gavin Newsom, and people aren't a fan of his right now, so it's like my name's associated with that a little bit, which is interesting. But anyway, today I'm going to be talking about my journey in A Course in Miracles, having to do with career, work, businesses. And every week, I really try to think about what I'm working on, what I can share that would feel valuable to you, and what I would want to teach myself and remember myself. And so far, it looks still good. But I am going to kind of go through my work career journey. And that's what I'm doing every week. I really put this off for years and years, getting in front of a camera. I would do it occasionally, but eventually I'd be like, I'm not that good. I'm not ready. I compare myself to someone like David Hoffmeister, who just rattles off quotes and just so clearly explains things, and it just comes through him so naturally. And so I was always like, I gotta study, and I someday maybe I can get there. And that was ego. That was like, if I'm like David, then somehow I'm complete. And what I've realized over the last few weeks, few months, is that my journey and my joining is to share my journey. And not from a place of having it figured out or feeling like I'm on the same level as David, but that I'm this human form in my mind that is awakening slowly and gently through the help of A Course in Miracles. And this is kind of like my live video journal to relate, and discover myself, but also to relate and discover, with other people together. Because I feel like we get to do this, return home to God, come back to who we really are together. And videos of all kinds of people and Instagram and people sharing have really helped me remember and open my eyes. So if this happens to be your first video, thank you for being here. Would love if you shared it, if you commented, and if you liked. That helps YouTube's algorithm, might help other people get in front of this video that are calling it forth. And if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. You can hit that bell, and then weekly when I have these videos, I do one a week right now, you can get that video. So let's take you through my career journey. I'm 46, which is crazy time. And right out of college, I went to the small liberal arts school called Hanover College. Had a blast. I was a psychology major. No surprise there. Like always, like interested in like analyzing things and trying to understand why and the truth. And so I didn't know what I wanted to do. And so I was like, well, what can make me a lot of money? And sales. I was like, I'm good with people. I care about people. So I'm going to go into sales. And so that's what I did. I worked for a company called John Hancock Financial Services. I sold long-term healthcare insurance. And basically, you know, what I was taught was I got on the phone. I made like 150 calls a day. And I set up appointments to go meet with people that were usually over the age of like 55 to more like 65 to sell them long-term healthcare insurance so they wouldn't lose their assets when and if that day came. And I felt that was noble. Yet the whole reason I did it was because when I interviewed there, they're like, you know, back in the time, this was a lot more money, but the guys who do well are making like $50,000 or $60,000 a year. I'm like, wow, that's like, you know, teachers back then were getting paid like 25. And so I was like, that sounds good. If I do what they do, I can make that. And guess what I did? I did that, which is pretty cool from the experience of like what's possible. But oh, my soul, that's when my soul started screaming. It was just like, oh no, it's like 6 days a week and on the phone. And I pounded people. Like I was taught to handle objections. So any form of no or doubt or whatever, I would overcome that and try to get the sale. And I was pretty good at it. And after about 2 years though, like I was just like, I can't do this anymore. So I moved on from that, and I'm just gonna kind of skip ahead. I went from job to job, all straight commission jobs, all with the same thing, the mindset of like, what can make me money? Never once asked like who I am, what's important to me, what value do I want to give, how can I serve people? It was kind of like, okay, here's what the product is, here's what I need to do to sell it, how can I do that so I can make money? And that was empty, wasn't that fun. The money part I enjoyed at that time. But so began my journey of many years of chasing money. And then once I made that money, I would go spend money on nice cars, and I've always really liked clothes. And then I got married to my dream girl and wanted to provide her a wonderful life. And so started the American dream, right? We built our first house, we had kids, and then, the normal story, which I think everybody can relate to. I had bills, and, I had ended up accumulating a lot of debt, living over what I was making. There's always this strong thing in me. It's like, no limitation. This is crap. If I want it, I'm going to get it. And I was able to get out of that debt, but I didn't learn the lesson. I still chased the money thinking that the stuff and the things I could buy and that how much money I made me a success and would fill that void within me that knew something was missing, that was lonely, that was lacking, that knew there had to be more meaning to this life than to just go and work in a job that you don't like, to make money, to buy things you don't even care about, to then fulfill this story and this illusion so other people think, wow, look what he's done. Look at his success. He must have it together. He's got it all, right? And underneath all that, my ego was like, God, you're doing great, keep it up, And then my higher self was just like, oh, this is bullshit. And I fought that back and forth. And we had this dream to move to San Diego. I live in San Diego now. I was a real estate agent for a number of years, my own brokerage, and made more and more money. I mean, it was like, wow, I was kicking butt in real estate. We came out here for a conference and decided this is where we wanted to live, and California is way more expensive. And we moved out here in 2008. And the market crashed right after we moved out here. And we pretty much lost everything, which at the time really, really sucked. Okay? But looking back, I can see the perfection, and I learned so much. And about that time, I'm going to get into A Course in Miracles. I'm leading up to that. But about that time, I started picking up A Course in Miracles. This is almost like 12 to 13 years ago, because I just felt that void. I was selling timeshare. And I was able to do it in a way that wasn't crummy or that wasn't illegal. I wasn't lying. But when the economy changed, that wasn't working anymore. And so I started this business. And I'm not even going to get into that. That's a whole nother video. But it was a spiritual business, and I was selling t-shirts. And oh my gosh, I was in joy, okay? And what I realized I was reading A Course in Miracles. I had been spiritual for a long time, read all kinds of books. Name a book older than 12 years, and I probably read it. And I just knew I wanted to change. I didn't want the rat race chase anymore. And so I dove 100% into that business, and I told myself, I'm going to kind of practice A Course in Miracles. I'm going to trust and have faith and listen to the Holy Spirit and to God and follow the guidance. And I did that. I mean, I really did that. And I was in absolute bliss. It was, can't even remember. It was a few months, but it was it wasn't 100% bliss. I mean, there were lots of feelings of fear coming up because I was doing something radically different. I mean, I had lots of bills. I had rent, and I had car payments, and I had little kids. I mean, it was 1, 3, and 5. And my wife so wanted to be supportive, but she was also kind of like, you're crazy. And she gave me some time, and most of the time, I mean, there's times I would just meditate and just be in this complete joy and tears of happiness and the pressure of a job and selling I was free. I was free. And I wasn't buying into that illusion. Yet there's a big but coming, right? And I don't want to spoil the story, but it was like jumping off a cliff as a bird who had never flown to see if I could fly. And I could kind of fly. It wasn't like a free fall drop. But I didn't really know how to fly. Trust God. I didn't know how to deal with the fears, and my wings weren't completely developed when in midair things weren't going as planned. You could say the winds picked up, the ground was approaching fastly, and panic set in. And I wasn't ready, and this is kind of one of the big parts I want to explain this to you is I wasn't ready to fly yet. I so wanted to. I wanted to so much that I was willing to jump. That's how desperately jumping to sea felt more in alignment than waiting to learn to fly before I jumped. And how I would describe that from A Course in Miracles perspective is that I feel like as course students, and that I have felt, is oh my gosh, with my job or with bills, family, career, business, whatever, it's like, this sounds so good. It resonates. It's like, you so want that. But then there's this world that we have participated in and that we have bought hook, line, and sinker in that is dictating most of our choices and ultimately running our lives, that we so want to believe in God and everything that is said in the Course. But then reality, our reality of form sets in, like, well, I have a family, I have bills, like, it's not fair to them. You know, when we got married, I didn't bring up to my wife in A Course in Miracles that I was just going to, like, tend to God and be one and come from love and not participate in anything of the world. Like, that's not, when I got married, that's not what she signed up for. And then there's that battle of like, oh my gosh, well, the job's not real, my family's not real, my wife's not real. And that doesn't seem like it's something that we can understand logically, conceptually, but it doesn't, in this world of form that we've created, it doesn't seem right to just leave that behind. And what I've learned over the years of that guilt of doesn't seem right is more the evidence that I didn't truly understand and that I wasn't ready to, quote, fly. And that in a lot of ways, the job, the family, the friends, the life I had created was the fear showing up in a multitude of ways of keeping me distracted, using that as the excuse not to practice A Course in Miracles, and the evidence that I wasn't ready to really live this in the radical form that it feels like when you first start reading it. Like, wow, you know, like some of the things, like, what? Like, this world's an illusion? Okay, what about this? And then it's like, well, if this world's an illusion, then I'm an illusion? I've made this all up? And then, whoa, then I have to take responsibility for all this? And then wait, you're saying that any of this could change as soon as I changed my belief about it. And you're saying I'm one with God right now? You're saying that Jesus, the Holy Spirit, is here with me at any time to guide me through all this, and that I can extend and be only love? But no, I can't, because this world has war. This world has politics. This world has other people who are wrong. That's, you know, in the beginning, these are all the things that as a course student goes through. And so in my job, let me come back. So I, with that business, was in bliss, but it all came crashing down because I didn't know how to deal with the fear. I didn't understand enough. And that's what like course students do, is like we start getting to a place in the book, or have reading it for a number of weeks or years, and it's like, I really like this, let's do it. But we're not armed with enough of the trust, the faith, the understanding of forgiveness, what miracles really mean, what they look like, how to perform them, that it's like we're eager course students, but we haven't developed the strength. We're still pretty weak in the heavy lifting of actually living it. And that's part of the process. That's what I want this video to know. That's part of the process of course. Like, you know, the time is an illusion, but in time and space, years feel like a long time, and it's not. It's like that. Like, you are watching this video right now in your life, whether or not you want to give yourself credit for it. You're undoing what you've learned. You're undoing the barriers of love presence. You're, starting to not participate in the illusion the same way by practicing forgiveness, by uniting with other, mighty companions, and loving all your brothers and sisters the best you can in that moment. And then, when you have some moments of doubt and judgment that you just get back on that horse and remember again in that moment, and understanding the past was an illusion, the future hasn't happened, and that all perfection in this moment is right here waiting to be remembered, to be experienced, to be seen. And that's a process. And what's really cool, the rest of the story I want to tell you, is that's a process you can do in everything. And yes, including your job. Yes, including all your relationships. Yes, with your finances, everything. But it's like, don't get caught up in the illusion of you're here and you want to be here, and then not realize like you're here, but you've come here and it's still over here you want to come, but you're getting closer and closer. Like don't get caught up in the illusion that you haven't progressed. That's part of the ego's thing, to be like, see, it's not working. I mean, I've fallen for that so many times. And like to create that doubt and that fear, and then it's like, and you fall off, and then you just like, no, I'm just gonna go back. No, it's not working. You know how many times I've done this? Like, nope, my what I was going for to fulfill my soul, it's not working to the degree that I was expecting. So I'm gonna just say screw it, and I'm gonna go make a shit ton of money, and I'm gonna show myself and other people that success and hitting goals and manifesting is going to make the difference and be what satisfies what feels missing. And gosh, I mean, like hundreds. Like if I could sit here and go through so many businesses, like every business that I've gone to start, I think I just realized this. It followed a spiritual experience of where I was practicing and living, but then became, like the course or truth coming from love. But then the fear was so significant that when I really started feeling those feelings, that I ran. And how I run is to start a new business or a new job. And that's how I did it for many, many years. I have been in this same, I guess you could say, job, career now for 13 years. Same job for over 7 years, which for me is an eternity. I think for a while there, I averaged about a year and a half. It was nutty. And now I can look back and see like what I was doing. I was running from the fear of truth. That my distraction was to go make money. And then I could be the victim of feeling bad and do that long enough to where it's like, I can't do it anymore. And then I would start another spiritual journey going within. And then that would last so long. And I'd pop my head up and be like, oh my gosh, bills are becoming a problem. This is scary. I'm gonna go and make a lot more money again. So I about 5 years ago was like, okay, I'm really tired of creating this repetitive process over and over. I just kept doing the same damn thing, expecting a different result. And we know that's insanity, right? So it was about 5 years ago. I had been doing like in construction. I mean, I've been doing like, it's kind of ironic. I do pavers sales. So like driveways and patios, and it's actually really good. Like it's something people want. But the first company I worked for, they did teach. I had to kind of pound people. I had to close hard. It came from a lack of like, if you don't get a yes today, you won't get a yes. And so I pressured people, which I don't like to be pressured. And it felt like I was manipulating them, probably because I was. And I was the general manager of this company, and this is a whole nother beautiful story, and I'll go into it on another video, but I really took it upon myself to build this team, and I took this company that had done nothing for years, built this great team, within 2 years, like doubled their revenue. And I had a lot of young guys that I was, brought on and taught, and I really felt like I was their mentor. And some things happened, and the way that my bosses wanted me to manage was pretty rigid. And I did some rigid things that I fully honor. And I had a mutiny, like my team turned against me. And when I found out about it, I was so hurt because the bosses were like, wanted to have a conversation with me, but like, I knew they were probably gonna fire me. And right on the spot, I just resigned because I was so hurt that like, gosh, I thought I'd come from love, and like I wasn't here for the first time for money. Like this was like a bigger purpose of like bringing this team together as a common ground, and felt like I had done that. So talk about betrayal. I mean, I remember, gosh, I cried for like days and was so hurt by people who I considered big friends who at the time felt like betrayal. And I look back like, oh my gosh, thank you. Thank you for the way that went, because I was not happy there. So I stayed in the industry and worked for a competitor. And after 2 years, like I was making a lot more money. I was working less. Like that was cool. I was making more. I was working less. I didn't have the stress. Like there's growth. I see growth. But I was like, gosh, I'm so tired of like pitching people so hard and closing. And so like 5 years ago, I was like, I had the first thought, how can I incorporate A Course in Miracles in my sales career? With, at that time, the fundamental belief that I was getting sales because I was good at sales and I knew how to close people and get them to make a decision on the spot. But the amount of work and effort that was taking, I knew wasn't sustainable. I was just like, I can't do this anymore. So how can I open up the barriers? I mean, how can I get through the barriers and that I'm putting in the way of love in my work? So I decided, I was like, I'm not gonna do a one-call close. So I'm not gonna try to close these people on the spot. I'm going to serve them to the best of my ability, and I'm gonna send them the quote. Long story short, results didn't change. They was the same. I was like, okay, well that's pretty cool. Like, so then like the next year I was like, okay, I'm gonna up this a little bit. Like that was pretty cool. And so I'm just gonna, like this year, I'm gonna see how much I can come from love. And when I say come from love, how that would show up to them is like literally how much can I serve them? And I had a little bit better year that year, working a little bit less. And then about 3 years ago, I was like, okay, let's really test this. What are the issues, Gavin, that like are tough for you in this job that you don't like, that aren't you, that don't feel like come from love, that you're still using as an excuse that there's some kind of need that has to happen for the results you feel like should, need, want to happen. And I was like, you know what? Like, I'm gonna completely detach from the outcome. And I'm literally gonna be like, I don't give a shit if they say yes. I am going to literally go in there to do everything I can to help them make a decision that's best for them. And I wholeheartedly believe that we're the company to deliver that, and I could demonstrate that. But I was like, I'm gonna go in with this detachment, like, I don't care. And that felt so freeing, because talk about abundance. It was like, I don't need them. I don't need anybody else to like do anything for my abundance to be fulfilled. And that was a huge leap of faith. Like I was learning to fly. Like I'm learning to fly in my job. And I had one of my best years. Worked a little bit less. It's like, wait a second. I mean, this is like miracle stuff here. Like, how is this possible? Like, my whole life, it was like you have to work really hard and you have to do these certain things to get these certain results. And then on my own, I started challenging those thoughts and came from more of who I really am in a place of service and love, and the results were better. So I was disproving the illusion to myself. And then last year, 2019, I was like, okay, whole new level. And none of this is bragging. I'm not trying to brag. But I was like, I used to like follow up with people a lot. And like, I looked at it as service, but it was kind of chasing them. And I was just like, you know what? All love, and let go of any need whatsoever of anybody to like me, to go with me. And I had my best year ever by a lot, by maybe 25%. And it's pretty damn cool. But one of the things that I started realizing is like, what was cool to me was the realization how I could come from love, and that everything else would just work out. The money part of it was like, whatever. I didn't even set a money goal. Like for my whole life, I'd set money goals. Like this is what it would mean to be success. All the books, you gotta set goals. I've written books on goal setting. I've done courses. I've done businesses on goal setting. I don't set goals anymore. I feel like goals are a way of being let down, striving for something that doesn't really matter. I mean, my goal is to connect with God. And I would call that more of an intention and more of a remembrance of my truth and what ultimately matters most to me. Like, oh, he made a lot of money, but he wasn't connected to God. Like, I don't want my tombstone to say that. I know my body is going to be left someday. And I don't care about anything except knowing my truth, living that truth. And I used to have an attachment that how I'll know that is if people see that in me. Even giving that up. That's why I don't give a shit if I get 12 views or 10,000 views. It's gonna be what it's gonna be. And then this year happened. 2020, the infamous 2020. Oh my goodness. What a year. A year that just feels like everything's been taken. The normal way of life will never be the same. Forced masks, quarantine, not being able to do things the same way that I used to be able to do, that everybody used to be able to do. But I had been practicing for years and years. And when it first hit, what was it, beginning of March, middle of March? I'm in constructions, I'm in straight commission sales. And they pretty much shut everything down, right? In California especially. And I think it was 2 months, was just home, no appointments. And it was glorious. I'm not saying it was glorious from the standpoint of having to deal with the pandemic, but every day was just coming from what I wanted to do. I created videos, I read, I posted on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, plug if you don't. And I lived in the moment, took a bunch of walks, breathed, meditated. I practiced constantly because I really didn't have any distractions. I was like, what am I going to do to connect with love today? Every day for 2 months. And I wasn't in fear. I wasn't oh my God, how am I going to pay for this? I'm going to do this. And I can't even explain it. But within a month or two of coming out of the quarantine, I made more money. I had more money. it's weird. I look back and like, wait a sec, like how did, like, I was in a better situation a month or two after, and I didn't work for 2 months. Unexplainable. I could give you the details of what happened, but it still doesn't add up. Miracle. And I'm about to have one of my best years ever again in a pandemic. That doesn't add up. I know when I look around I see so many people struggling. I see so much anger this election year, like Trump, and was the election fraud, or like, was it rigged, or is it poor sport and hypocritical, like, on and on and on, right? And we're about to go, starting tonight at midnight. Today's December 26th. We're gonna go, California is being pretty much shut down again. And I've been working on and practicing this stuff for so long. I'm not focused on that, of what is perceived to be taken away from me, what may be forced upon me, vaccinations. I'm remembering God. I'm removing the barriers to, that what of love, of truth. I'm not buying the illusion. I'm forgiving Gavin Newsom for his orders. I'm forgiving Trump for whether for all his craziness, right? My creation, I gotta forgive. What I see in him is a projection of what I believe in myself. So, with our job, with our work, it's just another opportunity to remove the barriers. And you absolutely can bring the truth to work. It doesn't matter what you're doing. You can be of service. You can forgive your boss, your coworkers. I've had many bosses. That's my big thing. Like, I've had a problem with pretty much all my bosses, I'll just say it. Like, that authority figure I don't like. And when they do stuff that I think is stupid, it really pisses me off, because then I feel like that is, their choices are affecting me, which is not right. And if they only did this, this would be better. And I've come to realize, like, all of those were forgiveness opportunities, and have been. And that I'm using those people as the distraction to my truth and as a barrier to love's presence. And as I remember that, and as I use forgiveness as taught by the Course, the illusion starts dissolving. And that I start experiencing that my happiness isn't dependent, my joy isn't dependent, my peace isn't dependent on them. Which is pretty cool. Talk about freedom. I can be free during a pandemic. I can be free working at a job. And here's the first, I must say this out loud to myself and to you. I know that my journey of my career has been the perfect evolution to me waking up and remembering my Christ mind. And for some people, it's to go at some point possibly to be at a monastery, or to another group of people living A Course in Miracles. But there's many of us that our journey, for a certain amount of time, and who knows, it could be in my future too, with other people, is to be in what I would call my battlefield of, and like, by the way, like, that's not a negative thing. like my life, I'm so blessed. I have so much to be thankful for. Last week talked about gratitude. So, I don't want, if my family or wife ever watches this video, I don't want like that I think my life is bad. When I say battlefield, with my mind, that I'm separate from God, and my battlefield is to get through, to remember and to reconnect and come back to that oneness with the illusion of what I've used as the distraction of work and family. And, I've used my wife as like that she's not a course studier, or that she doesn't really believe in the course, actually doesn't even really believe in Jesus, as for many years as my excuse not to study of a course, or that like somehow I was like betraying her by not staying in her thinking, which was part of my created battlefield, right? That's not true. My wife is wonderful. I don't need her to study A Course in Miracles myself. And I know this is my path, and I've let go of her, like needing her to study it or believe it, to think that somehow that's what I need to get to my next level in the course. And that's the same thing with the job. We all get to show up in each moment of the holy instant, bringing our truth to the surface. And as we do that, there will become a day, and that's what I was going to say a second ago, that I will lay down my perceived need for my current job or any job. And that my faith will be so strong that I can just follow the guidance. This video is an example of that. I'm following the guidance. I'm like constantly being reminded, and my mind says, just share. Just share. You don't have to know it all. You don't have to understand it all. Just where are you at? And be honest and truthful. Hold no grievances. Have no secrets. What's the term for that? I always forget that one. I must have some resistance to that. But I've shown myself, and you are too, if you really look at it, but I've shown myself how I can incorporate Course in Miracles teachings and simultaneously dissolve the illusion, dissolve time, and know that it's part of my creation and the perfect guidance to be one again. And I'm honored, I'm blessed, watching all kinds of Hofmeister movie recommendations that are my reminder, and I'm seeing the evidence of guidance of that I'm on the perfect path for me everywhere, which then makes everything I'm doing right now so much easier. I can't fuck it up. There's nowhere else I'm supposed to be. Right now, out in my other garage, my kid's room, like I'm filming this video in not great lighting. My gosh, right now it looks like there's like an orb. There looks like there's a delay here, but I don't know if this has always been here. If there's a reflection on the wall, there's not a reflection on the wall, like right? Oh my gosh. I don't know if you can see that. That's kind of interesting. There's not the reflection on the wall, but anyway. In this moment, all is well. Everything is perfect. I don't need anything to go a certain way. I'm about to go get a haircut because we're going to be shut down for at least 3 weeks. And whether I get to connect with God from the confines of my home, with my family, or out doing what I believe is my job, temporarily. It's part of my story. All is well. And another thing I wanted to share, when I'm out doing my job, like I drive a lot. And now I don't listen to the radio anymore. I pretty much just listen to Course in Miracles stuff. And I think of a question and I Google it and I get my answer. Guidance? Jesus guiding me? Maybe? Maybe this is Jesus guiding you? Maybe? Regardless, I just thank you for being here. I had a feeling this was going to be a long one. Really hoping this recorded, the quality's good. And we're all waking up together. All our prayers have already been answered. And we get to remove the barriers to love's presence. We get to dissolve the illusion to think that we're separated from God. What a joke. I mean, the farther you get down, like, oh my gosh, that's... And all our feelings of lack or depression or sadness or anger or frustration, I constantly let those come to the surface, because you can then dissolve them, and then you can let them go, and you can reconnect with that truth. And that's all this really is. That's what forgiveness is doing. Seeing truth. Letting go of the past. And as you see that truth, the perception changes. And you see and experience that truth, otherwise known as corrections of the error and miracles. You are not your job. You are in the process of reuniting with your truth. And you can do that in what is perceived as your job right now. And this is what I tell myself every day and have for years. And then just be the observer, not from certain results of needing anything to happen. Don't get caught up in my story of well, if I do it this way, I'll make more money in work class, like Gavin. It looks different for all of us. Pay attention to the joy. Pay attention to the peace. Pay attention to the no need for anything to happen the way you think it's supposed to happen. That is when you can see your progress. And all progress is the removal of a barrier. There's no levels. There's no better. It's the undoing of what we've bought into. So, I could go on, but subscribe, like, comment. I'd love to hear from you. I don't need to hear from you, but I'd love to hear from you. Hit the bell to get notifications. Share this. And follow me on Instagram. I'll put a link down there to my Instagram account. I might put this video on Instagram. So if you're there already, thank you. Much love, my friend. I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.